Hi students, happy morning to all. Welcome to 7th standard video. Today we are going to see about term 3 unit 2 supplementary reader Man Overboard. Term 3 unit 2 supplementary reader Man Overboard. Already we saw prose and poem. Now we are going to learn about supplementary reader Man Overboard, written by Vasantha Murthy. Okay students, shall we move? Man Overboard, written by Vasantha Murthy. In this supplementary reader, Vasantha Murthy, the narrator of this story, narrator one who tells the story. Narrator means one who tells this story. So Vasantha Murthy is the author of this supplementary reader Man Overboard and narrator also. The narrator of Man Overboard. Vasantha Murthy, the narrator of Man Overboard story. Okay students, shall we move? He stood on the deck of SS Rajula. Vasantha Murthy stood on the deck of SS Rajula as she stood on the deck of SS Rajula. Deck of SS Rajula is the deck is the harbor. Okay, deck means harbor. Of SS Rajula. SS Rajula here, boat name. Okay, boat name. So Vasantha Murthy stood on the deck of SS Rajula as she slowly moved out of Madras harbor. He wanted to move out of Madras harbor, and she waved to his grandparents till he could see them no more. He wanted to go out of Madras harbor because she wanted to meet his grandparents. She wanted to meet her grandparents. Okay, Vasantha Murthy stood on the deck of SS Rajula. SS Rajula here, boat name, deck is the harbor, as she slowly moved out of Madras harbor. She waved to her grandparents. Till she could see them no more. She was thrilled to be on board a ship. It was a new experience for her. So, Vasantha Murthy, the narrator of this story, she stood on the deck of SS Rajula. SS Rajula means boat name, ship name, and deck harbor, and she wanted to meet her grandparents. That's why she slowly moved out of Madras harbor, and she was thrilled to be on board a ship. It was a new experience for her. And ask the next person, "Are you traveling alone?" asked the person standing next to her. The person asked the person standing next to her. Asked, she was traveling alone. She replied that she was traveling alone. So the person standing next to her asked, she was traveling alone. She replied, Vasantha Murthy replied, yes. She was going back to her parents in Singapore, she replied. She was going back to her parents in Singapore, she replied. He asked, the unknown person asked what she was named. what she was named? She replied, Vasanta. Vasanta, the narrator of this story, and the author of this story also, and the author of this story. So the person standing next to her asked, she was traveling alone, or she traveling alone? She replied that she was going back to her parents in Singapore, and he asked, what she was name, and she replied that she was Vasanta. She spent the day exploring the ship. And it looked just like a big house. The ship looked just like a big house. There were furnished rooms, a swimming pool, a room for indoor games, and a library. She spent the whole day exploring the ship. She watched the ship. It looked just like a big house. There were furnished rooms, a swimming pool, a room for indoor games, and a library. Yet there was plenty of room to move around. To move around. The next morning, the passengers were seated. In the dining hall having breakfast. The loudspeaker spluttered noisily, and then the captain's voice came loud and clear. Friends, we have just received a message that a storm is brewing in the Indian Ocean. The loudspeaker spluttered noisily, and then the captain's voice came loud and clear. Friends means one who travel on this ship. So friends, they had just received a message. Friends means one who travel on the ship. They had just received a message that a storm was brewing in the Indian Ocean. She requested all of them to keep calm. Not to panic. Those who were inclined to seasickness might please stay in their cabins. So the next morning, the passengers were seated in the dining hall having breakfast. The loudspeaker spluttered noisily, and then the captain's voice came loud and clear. They had just received a message. That a storm was brewing in the Indian Ocean. He requested all of them to keep calm, not to panic. Those who were inclined to seasickness might please stay in their cabins. So Vasantamurthy also traveled in the ship of SS Rajula. There was panic everywhere. Panic. What is meant by panic? Panic means afraid, fear, frightened. There was panic everywhere. An old lady prayed aloud. Had mercy on them. Her only son, was waiting for her in Singapore. An old lady prayed aloud. O God, had mercy on them. Her only son, was waiting for her in Singapore. A gentleman consulted her. Not to worry. It was only a warning. We might not be affected at all. Okay, students. I hope you have understood about Man Overboard supplementary reader. I will explain in the next video. Thank you. Have a nice day.